This is Gagan Girotra, IIT Roorkee class of 2000, and I am Calcutta class of 2005.
Now, percentage is a fraction whose denominator is 100, right? So, very simply put, if let's say there is a number 50%, then 50% is another number which is equivalent to 50 upon 100. We can also say that percentage is a fraction with the denominator 100, or we can say that percentage is a ratio where the second number is 100, right? Where the first number is written the way it is and the percentage sign means is to 100, right? So the first thing that we must try and understand about percentages is that we have to treat this symbol, the percentage symbol, as equivalent to a constant whose value is 1 upon 100 or 0.01. If you start treating percentage as a constant with this value, then you will make far fewer mistakes in questions pertaining to percentage. Now, given that a number like this, right, a number like 50% is a fraction, how do we express a fraction into a percentage and vice versa? Now let's say there is 48% given to us, right? And we have to understand, or we have to convert this into a fraction or a decimal. Then converting this into a decimal is fairly straightforward. 48%, now we've just said that the percentage symbol is equivalent to 1 upon 100. So 48% becomes equal to 48 into 1 upon 100, right? So in converting this into decimals is fairly straightforward. This just becomes 0.48, right? Because this divided by 100, we just need to move 2 places of decimal to the left. Let's say if we had 56.6%, it would become 56.6 divided by 100, which is equal to 0.566, right? So this bit is fairly straightforward. What we can also do with this, right, is let's go back to 48%. What we can also do here is that 48 upon 100 can be expressed as 12 and 25. We can cancel out the common factor 4 and we get 12 upon 25. So we've expressed a percentage into fraction and we've also expressed a percentage into decimal, right? So simply put, a percentage is convertible into decimal, right? And a decimal is converted into percentage, just like a decimal is convertible into a fraction, right? And a fraction is convertible into a decimal. Likewise, we can convert a percentage into a fraction and a fraction into a percentage. Now let's look at the idea of increasing or reducing something by a certain percentage, right? So let's take an example. Let's say we have a number 200, right? Now if somebody tells me to increase the number 200 by 10%, essentially what I'm being asked to do is to the original number add 10% of the same number, right? Now one way could be I could calculate this part, right, which is to 200 I will add 10% of 200, which will become 200 plus 20. My answer is 220, right? So this is a two-step process where in the first step we calculate the percentage, right? And in the second step we add to the original number, right? Add the new number to the original number. Now instead, if we could do this in one step, this would make our calculations much faster. So increasing something by 10%, let's take it from here. Increasing 200 by 10% is adding 10% of 200 to 200, right? So what if I take 200 common, right? I am left with 1 plus 10%, right? So from here I take 200 common, and from here I take 200 common. So 1 plus 10%. Now I know that 1 is equal to 100%. So this thing becomes equal to 100% plus 10% of 200, which is nothing but 110% of 200, right? Now, if let's say I'm asked to increase 200 by 20%, increase 200 by 20%, I'm simply going to multiply 200 by 100 plus 20%, right, which is equal to 200 times 120%, right? Now it just remains to be simplified if I know what fraction this translates into, right? This translates into a fraction 6 upon 5. 120 upon 100 is 6 upon 5. So all I got to do is just multiply 200 by 6 upon 5, which is 240. Right? So this actually simplifies my calculations a bit, where increasing something by 10% is equivalent to multiplying that thing by 110%, right? So let's look at some of the examples. So if let's say I'm asked to increase x by, let's say, increase x by 10%, then my answer is going to be 110% of x. If I'm asked to increase x by 20%, then my answer is going to be 120% of x. If I'm asked to increase x by 50%, then my answer is going to be 150% of x, and so on, right? Interestingly, if I'm asked to increase x by, let's say, 100%, increase by 100%, then my answer is going to be, just like I've been doing here, 100 plus this new number 100% of x, or 200% of x, right? So increasing something by 100% means making it 200% of the original. Now let's look at another terminology which sometimes confuses. In case of an increase, right, increase by a certain percent, increase by 100%, or increase by a 200%, what if I am told increase to 200%? Let's see what this means versus increase by 200%. Let's see what both of these mean. Now, so far what we've done is increasing something by a certain percentage. We do 100 plus that percentage times the original number, right? So if let's say we were asked to increase x by 200%, our answer will be to do x multiplied by 100 plus 200%, right, or 300% of x, right? This is what increasing by a certain number means. However, if I'm asked to increase something to 200%, then all that the question is asking is to multiply x by a certain number, which makes it 200% of the original number. So whenever there is a increase to something, I just increase x to 200%, right? So I just do a 200% of x. However, if I'm asked to increase something by 200%, then to the original I must, this is 100% of x is the original, to the original I must add another 200%, so it becomes 300%, right? So this terminology is sometimes confusing. Please make sure you don't make a mistake here. Now let's look at reduce by a certain percentage, right? So reduce by a certain percentage. Now let's start with 200, and I'm asked to reduce 200 by 10%. So this computation is from 200 subtract 10% of 200, but if I do it like I did for the increase something by x%, I can get 100, I can get, let me just take 1, right? So 1 minus 10% of 200, right? This is what this thing is equal to, and 1 is 100%. So I do 100% minus 10% of 200, and this becomes 90% of 200, right? So notice that if I must reduce something by 10%, I just do a 90% of 200, right? Likewise, if I'm asked to reduce something, reduce by, let's say 20%, then I must, the original number becomes 80% of itself. If I'm asked to reduce something by 30%, then the number becomes 70% of its original self, and so on, right? So if I'm asked to reduce by 70%, the number now becomes 30% of the original number. Now, just like last time I had a problem with by, I may have problems with to also. If I'm asked, instead of reduce by 20%, if I'm asked to reduce to 20%, then I simply got to multiply the original number by the number, by the percentage to which I want it reduced, right? So reduce by 20% was, I reduced 20% from the original number. But reduce to 20% means I just simply multiply this number by 20% and I get my answer.
Thanks for watching the video. You can give your feedback in the comments section below. Please click the like button if you thought the video was helpful. For lesson updates, you may subscribe to my YouTube channel People Plus, or you may read my blogs at peopleprep.com, or you can directly connect to us through our Facebook page @PeoplePlus, or you can email to me at gagan@peopleplus.com. Thank you.